Thanks for joining, everyone. John is going to talk today about EZ Processing Suite, which is an add-on for PixInsight that hopefully makes everything easy. And he's been playing with it for a while, and I'll just turn it over to you, John. And
okay, all right.
Everyone, if you have questions, we're a small enough group. If you just want to, are you okay if someone just speaks up during the presentation if they have a question?
Yeah, I don't see, I mean, that suits me. I mean, we're not, like you said, there's not too many of us, so it should be not a problem. So,
all right.
I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop. You all see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so we're talking about the EZ Processing Suite and PixInsight. Kind of what I had planned on covering was, roughly what is it, how to install it and configure it, what pieces of the PI processing suite it will help me with, and then where does that fit into how I process my images. And then I've got some real quick pseudo demos. I'm not running really any demos because even with I've got a pretty good sized PC, but even with that, some of these take several minutes to run, so I don't want us to be sitting there staring at the screen. So I've kind of figured out how to pseudo demo them, but we can kind of look at them and then talk a little bit about what I like and what I don't like about each one. So, so getting started, kind of what is it? I guess most of you guys probably already know. It's a set of scripts that are developed by this guy who goes by the moniker of Dark Archon. I finally today discovered what his real name was because I saw that there's a way to send him some money, and of course he had to tell me his real name, I guess, to get some money from me. But at any rate, so he's very active in the PixInsight world, and I think he does really his main work. He does a lot of development for Nina, so he's a pretty sharp guy. Has a lot of broad experience across a lot of things. So his stuff's good. It's not quite a year old. It showed up about July of last year. And basically the strength of it is that what he's done is tried to take some of the more common pieces of the processing steps in PixInsight and either make them easier to execute, or particularly what he's done in a lot of cases is combine things that take multiple steps. So like if you need to do a process, you need to build some masks and you need to tweak this or that, then the nice thing is that he's kind of combine those into a script so that you can more quickly get to the point of actually processing the image with that particular type of processing. And I think it is also, it's easier for folks who are new to some of these things that are more tricky kinds of processing of the images, like the deconvolution and the denoise procedures particularly. So nice variety of things he's covered here, and he's done it really well. So we talked about it just a minute ago. I think most people have already done the installation and configuration, but I'm going to go through this so if anybody's watching it on the web later, they can have an idea. So basically, PixInsight uses this concept of repositories to do, even within PixInsight, to do their automatic updates between major releases. So that they've also made that repository functionality available to folks who are developing scripts. And of course, scripts are the way that the PixInsight developers provide for end users like us to do our own extensions of functionality in PixInsight without it actually becoming a part of the PixInsight distribution. So it's a nice way of extending things. So the idea is that you have to have a repository. You can use a repository as a way to get your scripts into PixInsight. So, and this is the URL for the EZ Processing Suite's repository. So if you go there, just in a browser, you get that nice humorous, the guy's got a sense of humor. He's going to master the evil PixInsight. So Pretty funny. So at any rate, quickly to go through how you do the installation. The first thing you've got to do is define that repository to PixInsight. So you go in and you add that repository URL to the list of the repositories that are already there. And then you go in through the update facility and you make sure that that new repository is selected as one to check. Hit the apply button, and then it's going to go out and look, and it'll see, I think this is from when I actually did the install the other day again, just to see how it happens. And there were 9 updates packages that it downloaded from the EZ Processing Suite repository. So it tells you that, you do okay, you exit out of PixInsight, and it cranks up the PixInsight updater, and you can run that. It'll do all the install all those packages, and then when you go back into PixInsight, it'll tell you that it's installed updates. And if you look at the log, you can see over here EZ this and EZ that, so you can tell that it actually did install those new scripts into the distribution. So, and then to double check, make sure that it's there. Now, when you go into the scripts in PixInsight, you'll see the EZ Processing Suite option there. And then you'll see, if you pull over here, you'll see the choices for the new scripts. You pick one, and then the script dialog comes up. So that's how you know that you got it installed correctly. So that's just kind of a real quick and dirty. It's very easy. Doesn't take, just a couple of minutes to install it and get it up and running. All right, so what things does it do for you? This is a list. There are now 6 different features in the, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 6 different scripts that you can use to, in conjunction with your regular processing. Of course, the deconvolution one. Interesting thing about this, it's not using your traditional method of the one that I've always learned for how to do deconvolution. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the demo, but I would recommend that you watch that YouTube video for, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Okiwoke. Any rate, that video is really good and shows the process he used, and that's the process that Dark Archon copied and built into this script. So it'll help you understand better what the settings are and what it's actually doing. Because at first I didn't watch this video, and for a long time I didn't really think that the thing was very good, because it didn't seem to do a very good job, but it was because I might not have been setting it up right. So at any rate, I would recommend watching that. Then there's a noise reduction script. If you're familiar with a fellow named John Arista, he's very active on cloudy nights and in Astrobin. He's a professional photographer and a great astro imager, and he has a website where he's got his professional photography stuff on there too, but he's also started putting in some kind of tutorials for different PixInsight processes, and one of them is this process that he uses for combining the TGV Denoise with MMT to do noise reduction. And so that website, that link there, takes you to a page which he explains in great detail what he's doing, and it involves creating some masks that are different. We'll look at that in just a minute. So it's a really good thing, I think, to read again if you're going to try to use this script to understand what's going on in the background for it. So those are probably the 2 most involved scripts in this whole suite right now. The other ones, this EZ HDR is just basically a quick way to run the HDR multi-scale transformation to bring out details and increase your dynamic range in your images. The live stack, which I haven't done, Michael was talking about that a little bit earlier. I don't know whether everybody was here or not. He can maybe say what he said before again at the end. but basically it lets you monitor your images as they come in, as you're collecting them, and then stack them. And I don't know, it's real time, semi-real time, to kind of see what your results look like. The EZ Soft Stretch is just basically an execution script for the histogram transformation to stretch your images from linear to nonlinear. You know, it's a nice little script. We'll look at that first. And then the EZ Star Reduction is a really nice little script for reducing the stars in your images. And I think it's really a pretty good script. I like it. And I've used several scripts and several techniques for doing this, but to me, this one does one of the best jobs as far as reducing the stars, but not doing any damage to the rest of the image. So all right, that's kind of the ones that are out there now. And where do they fit into your processing flow? This is kind of the processing flow that I use, kind of as an outline. I don't always use all these steps in every image, but this comes from Warren Keller's, I guess it's the Inside PixInsight book. Toward the back of the book, he has a kind of appendices that show flows for either LRGB and narrowband or one-shot color, and he kind of suggests the different processes to use. So this is kind of the one that I follow for the most part. And so if you look in all those different processing steps, you'll see the ones there that are highlighted in the cream color are the ones that have processing parts that kind of relate to the different scripts that are in the EZ Processing Suite. And then if you kind of map those scripts to these steps, then obviously the deconvolution one, you can see where it fits. And I use the Denoise, the noise reduction one in place of those steps in several places there. And you can see where the stretch comes in, and then down there where you start doing the HDR multi-scale stuff, you can use that easy HDR step. And then right at the end there, if you need to reduce the stars, you can use the EZ Star Reduction instead of that process that you used to have to go through to do the star reduction by creating a mask and doing the morphological transformation on it. And it used to be a really, really painful thing, but this EZ Star Reduction really, I think, does a great job there. All right, so let's see. Yeah, I'll come back to that in a minute. All right, let's look at the kind of go through and look at the processes themselves. I've kind of, like I said, I've got a semi demos for each one. Got to find the right. I'm running multiple instances of PixInsight, so I can try to not take too long to do this. So at any rate, let's start with probably the simplest one. This is just an image of M51, something I've been working on for a while before the pollen hit, and this is just a linear image. It's not supposed to be stretched. What happened here? Doesn't seem to be. There, okay. So it's linear, it's not stretched, but so just to kind of illustrate how these scripts all work, you come into the EZ Processing Suite, you pick the one that you want to run, and it always pops up the disclaimer here that says, basically, I could crash your PixInsight because I might have bugs. Don't, save your stuff before you start running these scripts. And we all tend to get lazy sometimes and not save things as often as we should, but I'd recommend doing that. I don't think I've ever, maybe once or twice, had it crash on me when I was just doing regular work. While I was getting ready for this demo, and I was going in there and just pounding on it and doing multiple trials and multiple runs of things to see what changing parameters would do. that I did have it crash a couple of times. So it's not crash proof, but I haven't really generally had much problem with it crashing. So I would not, I would take his warning to heart, but I wouldn't worry about it too terribly much. So generally, if you haven't used this before, every one of the scripts comes up like this. It brings up a dialog for you, and each one of them has a little button here where you can click on it, and it will tell you basically how to use it. And the nice thing is it's broken up and it tells you what kind of image you need, what state the image needs to be in order for this script to work on it. And then it kind of walks you through the basic steps of how do you execute the script. So it's not a ton of information, but in some of the more complicated or more complex ones, it will make some suggestions. So that, like if the image is too noisy, try changing this, or if if you're not getting enough of this or that, it does make some recommendations. So it's worth looking at, particularly the first time you come through it. So then generally with all the scripts, the first thing you have to do is to pick the image that you want to work on. So you do that, and it's going off and starting to run the script. And so what it did in this case is it ran a trial of the script, and some of the scripts have windows over here where you can actually see a image that shows you what the script has actually done to your original image, so that you can evaluate what you like before you actually commit to changing the image. So there are a couple of them, there's three of them that have this feature in it, and a couple of them that don't, but it's really nice because you can actually see what you're doing here. And for this one, the stretch, it's a pretty simple thing. Basically, you can control this target median, lets you control where you want the peak of your histogram to hit. So if you want to move it over to the right and brighten things up, you can move it over and it'll slide the thing over. And also it does do some expansion with it. You can adjust where your black point is if you want to by, you can pull that over some and it will slide the black point over as well. So basically those are the two main things that I've seen it does for you. Not 100% sure, maybe somebody else knows what these other options do, zeroing the white point. I've never seen it make much difference to the image or to the histogram. And then I've also tried playing with its aggressiveness, which it says, the help says adjust the histogram clipping point. I'm not sure which clipping point it's talking about. I'm assuming maybe the white clipping. I don't know. But at any rate, I've never seen that do much. But at any rate, to use the script, you play with those settings and you see what it does to the histogram, basically see what it does to the image and get it like you want it to be. You can also reset the settings to the defaults. And then when you get the image the way you want it, then you can just execute the script and it will actually make the modification to your base image. So now this image is stretched, and you can actually, you see all it did was a histogram transformation. So I can undo that if I want to and redo it just like. So basically the script doesn't do anything but execute processes against your image just like you would yourself. So it's not really any magic. Now, as far as this process, the stretch process, I did here's a sample of the defaults for the EZ Stretch script. And then I compared that to, I used the mass stretch script against that same image. And then I just did kind of a manual on my own using histogram transformation and adjusting where the histogram hit. And what I found is that sometimes this thing does a really good job. Sometimes usually I'll run that first and just see what it does. And if I'm happy with the way it looks and I think it's done a good job, then I'll use it. But if I'm not happy with it, then I'll play with one of these other tools and see if I can get something I like better with that versus the the script. But like I say, sometimes, I mean, I have had it on some images that I've worked on where I really liked what it did, maybe better than I could tweak it myself with just using the histogram transfer process. So it's a pretty nice thing to have in your toolbox to try. So all right, so that's the easy stretch tool and the basic, probably the simplest one of these. The second one I was going to show you is the Easy HDR. Oops, that's not the one I wanted. Yeah, it is. It is. All right, so I'm going to take this one right here, which is just the manually stretched M51, and I'm going to run this histogram or high def HDR multi-scale processing script against it. So basically what this is going to do is try to restore some of the dynamic range in the object. Again, you got the instructions. Let's see, that's the one we want to look at. Now this one at this point does not do any sort of showing you, doesn't give you the preview to see what it's doing. But it's pretty simple anyway. Pretty much what it appears to be doing, I'm gonna slide this over beside here's the HDR multi-scale transform process dialog. And pretty much what it lets you control is how many layers, how many wavelet layers you want to do the HDR transform on. That's pretty much all you've got control over. You can't, apparently can't increase the iterations, and I don't know what it's setting for these check boxes and such, or the scaling function. This one pretty straightforward in what it does. But the only other thing you can do is what it does is it'll run the HDR transform against your image and create a new image, and then it'll use pixel math to blend that back in with the original image at a percentage that you've specified here. So you can go from 1% or 1% to 40%. So you've got some controls there about how much you want to blend in. So and then you click the run HDR when you're ready. Again, that takes a couple of seconds to do, so I'm going to not do that. But I wanted to show you the results so you can kind of get an idea. So here's the original Galaxy with no modification. And then here's the one where after the HDR script is run, and it blended 30% of the enhanced one back into the original. So you can see that the running the HDR multi-scale transform gives you some pretty stark, I mean, it brings out the dark lanes in the Galaxy, but it really is it's too much. And this is not much at all. So when you mix it back in, I think it gives you a nice effect. And again, you can tweak that percentage. I think, like I say, I think this was 30%, whatever the default is, but you can increase it to some more. And of course, it creates this image and leaves it for you. So you could do pixel math and do whatever kind of blend you wanted to do manually against the original image. You know, typically what I do is I'll run the HDR transform on it, and then I'll also run the local histogram equalization back to back. And then when I get that result, I'll blend that back with the original image. So mine's a two-step process. So, you know, that's just the way I do it. But the script works pretty well for this. So any questions on this to this point? Anybody? Got questions, comments? You know.
No, it's looking good, John.
Okay, good. All
Good.
right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's move on. And I'm going to go to the, this is the deconvolution script. So I've got this Thor's helmet image that I shot back earlier, and I'm going to bring up the deconvolution script and pick that one. And again, with this, you do get the preview on it, so which is nice. Now, the difference is, to me, between traditionally what I've always done with deconvolution is I create a star mask, and I use that star mask in conjunction with the de-ringing settings in deconvolution to prevent those ugly black rings around the stars whenever you run deconvolution against the image. And then I guess most of the time I think I use a like a lightness mask that's inverted to protect the background when you're running it against the nebula to try to sharpen that up. This uses a really kind of different technique. The technique it uses is, it says to heck with worrying about de-ringing. It doesn't even invoke the de-ringing capabilities of deconvolution at all. So it just storms ahead and zaps the image, and if you look at the image with just the deconvolution done, you get these awful ugly black rings. But what he's doing here is he creates a star mask, but it's not the same star mask that we typically use against in deconvolution. This purpose of this star mask is that after he's run deconvolution and fixed the image, sharpened it up, then he takes the original image and takes the stars from the original image and uses that mask to poke the stars from the original image back in over the messed up ugly stars that are created in the deconvolution process. So it repairs it after the fact. So interesting way to do it. Like I said, that for a long time, until I watched the video, I didn't realize that's what he was doing, and I was kind of scratching my head about it. But it works pretty well. You can create a star mask, and I'll show you what this is. I've already done this. You guys are kind of getting the food channel version of these demos. So, I've got I'm making up the recipe, and then I've got the finished dish in the oven. So you're getting that sort of an approach to it. But basically, this is what happened. This is what happened when I created the original star mask, and I use this tab that says Create Process Star Mask. So he takes the original star mask that you get from StarNet++ and does some massaging on it with stretching and convolving and dilating the image, the star images, and creates this this mask. And of course, he's stuck it over the top of the image, but there's what the actual mask looks like. But as you can see, it wasn't perfect. It didn't get all of these big stars. So it has a feature where you can go in, and it uses, I can't remember what the game or something like that. There's some script in the other script out there. And so you can create an ellipse and basically add and cover up a star or cover up something if it didn't get covered up by the original. And of course, if you look at that thing, it's not this really stark circle. So you can use the convolution routine, and it will soften the edges of it. Of course, it's softening the edges of all of them, so that might not be good. But at any rate, and you can also dilate it if it's not quite big enough, and it'll make it a little bit, it'll increase the size of the image as well. So basically, you can use that routine to fix the mask if it's not the way you want it. And I'll show you what the mask ended up with after I fixed everything that I wanted to fix. So you can see I got rid of all the stars that could potentially cause me problems. In fact, there were a couple inside the nebula here that were particularly problematic because they rang pretty bad, and then even they didn't get replaced as well whenever the process replaced the stars in the original image. So I had to, it was several processes back and forth, several iterations to get it to where I was happy with it. Now you can also optionally put in a background image, again, to protect the the background from the deconvolution process, which can, cause some ugly noise there. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the deal is here, because when I read his notes over here about it, he says he's protecting the background, but in my way of thinking, what I'm used to thinking is red protects, and so it looks like you're protecting the nebula, but it's not really. I don't think it doesn't seem to do that. So I'm not exactly sure what he's doing here, but at any rate, that background mask will protect these areas that are not where you want to actually do the deconvolution. So there's your masks. And then in here, you can run the script that's out there to create the point spread function based on the stars. And I've already done that. So it generated that point spread function. And you can control here how many stars you want it to use in that model, and the sensitivity. I've occasionally had a problem where there weren't enough stars that it could find enough or detect enough to create the PSF. So you have to tweak this sometimes. And then, of course, going back or looking at the original deconvolution process over here on the right, you've got the different layers of the wavelet layers that you can set the noise threshold and the noise reduction on to tweak the way it applies the deconvolution function to the image. So now the nice thing about this is, I can't do it now because it's going to take several minutes to run, but once you get your settings, you can click the evaluate and it will run through the whole process and will show you an image of what the deconvolution run will look like after it's finished. And you can do A/B against the target, the original image, where you can take multiple runs and tweak these parameters and see how it changes the results of a run. And that way you can, without actually messing with your original image, you can get it to tweak it down to get the exact settings you want to do your final run. And it actually over here, when you do a run, it will display in this panel over here the settings for each run. So when you'll have the target image here, and you might have several runs across here that'll show up as tabs like this, and you can look at each tab to see exactly what image or what settings were invoked when you ran that image. So that way you can tweak it and pick out the one you like the best, set the values over here, and then run the process, and it'll actually do it against your image. So
Hey, John.
Yeah.
What does the create processes only? Is there a way to actually save your best runs to a process icon, or?
What this will do is, I think what will create, it'll create the process icons with the settings. So yes, you could. I don't know that. I think it'll only create it for the final settings. I don't think you'd have to run it multiple times if you wanted to get the icons with the settings plugged into them based on the settings in here. But yes, it will. It'll create it so you could save you got a setting that you like and you want to not have to go through this script the next time that you run it. Yeah, you can save those icons.
Thank you.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool because I can see that would be a valuable thing. So,
and Naveen said something. Yeah, you can apply those settings, so that's good. Yeah, well, it's thought out. Thanks.
And it also throws out leaves you with the masks too, so you have those as well. So it does a pretty good job of saving everything for you. So all right, so I'm not going to run that, but I do have let's see here. I wanted to show you. I ran it a couple of times, and so here's the original zoomed in a little bit. then here's the first time I ran it with just the default settings. And you can see that while, you know, it's clear that it did deconvolve and the image is clearer and you've got a little more detail there, but there's a good bit of noise back here in the image. So I tweaked those settings, pushed the thresholds up a little bit, and then you can see how it improved the noise. I still think this image is enhanced or sharpened over the original. May not be quite as sharp as this one, but it's certainly the noise is a lot better in that one than in the original ones or in the first run. So so you can play with it and tweak the settings, and like Michael asked, you can, once you get it like you like it, if it's something you think you might need to run again, then you can save those process icons and save them in a project and stick that project away for future runs. So
yeah, a comment I would make with respect to the star mask is for deconvolution, it's not really a star mask. You know, it's bionized, but you don't want to base it on the number of stars. You want to base that on the brightness of stars. You don't want to mask the faint stars when you're doing it.
Yeah, well, I would say that
Yeah.
let's see, let me look at that. You're talking about,
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have a whole lot of control here for the settings for creating the mask. I mean, you know, if you do that, I don't know that it hurts anything.
Well, the good thing is it's got a view, so you can choose one you've done yourself already.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
Great.
That's right. Yeah. I do like that. And again, if you want to create your own mask, you don't have to use this. You could create your own mask outside of this process and just load it in. So, you know, you can create your own mask however you want to. And you do not have to use any of these automated steps. I mean, every one of them has a selection box that so you could pull in. You know, if you're happy with the way that you create your mask, but I will point out again, don't think about this mask like you think about the masks that you create for typically have before for deconvolution, because this thing is not doing the same thing with the mask that the de-ringing routine in deconvolution does. So you might want to think about that too as you're thinking about how this thing works. So, and that was a problem for me for a while, because I was thinking the traditional mask for deconvolution was what this was doing, and then I watched that video that the fella who Dark Archon based this script on, his process, and so I realized, oh, he's doing something totally different. So so that is a little bit of a consideration to take into when you're thinking about this script and how it works. So let's see. Any other questions or any other comments about it before we move on? We got a couple more to hit. So
just a quick comment, John. So I've had problems with M51 in the generated, quote, mask, but I used another process to generate a star mask. So some of the stars in the nebula or in the galaxy were getting horked. So I took the generated mask from the EZ Decon and pixel math merged it with another one to catch those stars of the right size and whatnot, and it worked really well.
Yeah, so, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. Good idea. I have not used. I mean, I was like you saw. I'm shooting M51, or was shooting it before pollen season, and I want to go back and get some more data. So I'll have to see. I haven't used this script on that image, so that's a good suggestion. All right, let's move on to the Denoise routine. And again, here, this is a pretty specialized application of these two routines. So let's see here, regional, what world? Oh, that's interesting. Let's try that again. Wonder what that. Well, I've never had that happen before. Anybody ever seen that before? Didn't even.
Just once, and it magically went away. I don't.
Yeah, well, there. Okay, so when I ran it again, it. All right, let me see if I think I was moving too fast for it or something. All right, there we go. Okay, so. Well, that's weird. Of course, things never happen when you're practicing. It's always in the live demo that things go squirrely. So, all right, let's see. I don't know what we're doing here, but okay. And if I can just get this resized like I want it, then I'll. Okay, so basically, again, this EZ Denoise script is implementing this technique that was developed by John Rista, and he doesn't do exactly the standard thing that I learned for processing using the TGV denoise, where you have to create the right kind of mask and all that sort of stuff. What John is doing is he uses this. You see this mask right here in the middle. I've got a small version of it. He uses a real low contrast mask that does a lot of protection over the whole image, but to balance that off, he runs a heck of a lot of iterations of the TGV denoise routine to actually accomplish the noise reduction. So he builds a special mask for the TGV denoise, and then he runs that process, and then after that, he runs multi-scale median transform to do some further noise reduction, and he has a mask that he builds particularly to a particular characteristics in order to do that. And again, if you read his that web page I cited, he'll explain in great detail how to create these masks and then the logic behind why he created them that way. So it's really good explanation of this whole process. So this first dialogue here on the front is actually setting up how you build those masks. And to create this low contrast mask, what he does is he uses a curve transformation, and he pulls the black limit up to about 25% from 0, and he pulls the white down from 1 down to 0.55 or in that ballpark. And so that's what creates this really low contrast mask. And then he takes a histogram transform and pushes the overall peak of the histogram to the 50% mark to brighten it up or to bring it up in intensity. So that's what these settings are, is for adjusting the properties that build this mask. So I've always just used the defaults because they seem to work pretty well. They create a mask very similar to the way that I created it manually based on the information, because I had started using John's method before this script came out, because I stumbled across it and liked the results I got. So I had actually already been doing that. So basically, you use that this front dialog to build the characteristics for the masks, and then over here you can optionally not run TGV denoise and just run the MMT process to do noise reduction if that's what you want to do. But I've always used them together. The neat thing about it is, if you've done traditional TGV denoise, you need to set this edge protection based on the statistics, the standard deviation of the background of the image. So you have to typically usually pick a preview and you run the statistics process on it and get the standard deviation, and then pop that into the edge protection, and then tweak these other parameters and trial and error it to get it to look good. At least that's what I have always done. But the nice thing about this is you can do that. You can tell it not to run. It has a noise evaluation script that looks at the image and somehow comes up with an estimation of that number. I don't know anything about what it does in the background, but it seems to work pretty well. Or you can give it your own reference background image if you want to. And so then it also allows you to adjust the multiplier. I'm not exactly sure what it does there. So I haven't ever tweaked that. So, but anyway, I always let it run that evaluation so that it comes up with the settings for edge protection, and then you can adjust the those other two parameters. Usually I've got some notes where I've found good values that seem to work for me, and I can't even remember what they are because I've just been using the defaults here. And notice where normally in the past I would run, just a few hundred iterations of TGV Denoise in the old days, because I think because of the way he's got it masked, it can stand a whole lot more cycles. At least that's the way I've interpreted what he said to do the noise reduction. So, and then over on the MMT dialog, again, you're setting the characteristics here that are going into what you would normally set up in your MMT process for noise reduction. So basically it's kind of a one-to-one match up there. I would suspect that the settings here might be a little different than you would use in traditional way of using this process, because this mask is different. And I can't remember what John had to say about that in the website tutorial he's got, but I just used what he had suggested for the settings over here, and I think these probably will mirror it. So anyway, so there's the deal. You go through and do all that settings. You can run an evaluation, and it again will give you multiple trials over here, and you can see and compare to the original. You can compare multiple runs and dial these numbers in both on the TGV Denoise part and on the MMT part to get it exactly like you want. And then you can only create your masks. You can create the masks and the processes, or you can run the thing to get the results. So pretty nice interface for doing this. And so when you run it, let me see here. Get the so here is after I ran it. I zoomed in a bit. Let me see if I can make this image same scale. And this is pretty much running with the defaults, but you can see that the noise here has been attenuated pretty well. There's still a little bit of noise up in here. I don't know. Maybe I need to tweak it some more. But actually, if you back out a little bit, and then look at it, not pixel peep, it really does. It's pretty dramatic, the noise reduction between the two, or at least it looks pretty good to me. So, Sarah, I like this one a lot. Like I say, I've pretty much made this my go-to noise reduction in most cases. I still do use, sometimes I will take at the end, I'll take pretty much the final image out of PixInsight as a TIFF. And I bought a tool called Topaz Denoise, which is a general purpose noise reduction plugin for Photoshop. And I use it for my terrestrial pictures as well as the astronomical ones. And I really like what it does. I think it does a pretty good job. Particularly, I've noticed that I had one image that it did a really good job for color noise, fixing some color noise that got thrown into the picture as I did some of the final color or saturation pushes in PixInsight. It got a little color noisy, and the noise routine over in Photoshop did a great job of fixing that. But anyway, I digress. I think I'm fairly happy with what it does for my images. So I use this script a lot. So, any questions or comments about this one before we go to the last one?
Yeah, that does look really good, John. Let's see. I don't use TGV denoise much. Do you have any control over chrominance versus luminance noise reduction?
You do in this guy, because you can if you're in this mode, then what I used to do, that's a good question, because I haven't run this on a color image. I've usually just done it on black and white, or before I go to the RGB. But in the original thing, you can separately set the color and the luminance. So I don't know. I'll have to.
Yeah, well,
do some
maybe
digging
the
on
UI
that.
changes if you load a color image. Who knows?
Maybe it does. I hadn't thought about that. But
And is it so? Is the edge protection and the smoothness pretty much the parameters that control? See, I usually use ACD, whatever, ACDNR, whatever.
yeah,
It's ancient.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I usually have a luminance mask to protect the brighter areas. Is that all kind of mixed into those sliders, so you don't need a mask?
Well, sometimes I've used I do use a luminance mask with it, or used to in the old days, as well, to try to protect the from messing up the stuff I don't want to reduce noise on or don't care about as much. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was just, so the EZ Denoise either does one for you or it does something so that it's not required. Is that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if I missed that part. That's fine. No,
Yeah.
but it's.
No, I mean, yeah, because you're using these masks on it, when you're running those
yes.
two. So I don't know. I need to read some more about that. And I need to look at the color thing. That's a good question, because I don't remember trying that. So.
But you're getting good looking results out of it. So,
Yeah. I mean, it really.
Well.
I haven't my personal attempts with other noise reduction techniques. Either if they do as well, they take a lot more effort, and this one's just kind of like boom, it just kind of works. So I'm lazy on that. So that's my excuse.
I like that. So.
All right.
Cool.
One more. Like I say, I like that one probably the best of any of the scripts. And my second favorite is the star reduction script. So there's a shot that I did of Heart and Soul. You're in the middle of the stinking Milky Way, and even with narrowband, you're still getting a ton of stars in there. And so this star reduction script is pretty stinking easy to use. So you pretty much just tell it what object it is. If you've got a StarNet mask already, you can pull that in, or you can make it generate one. And I always use this morphological selection, the normal thing. He's got something that Adam Block, I guess, has come up with, and I haven't tried that. I need to try that and see if it makes any difference or I like it any better, but I've always just used the default. And so pretty much that's all. You can increase the number of iterations. I've usually used the default, but I might run it a couple of times in sequence to reduce the stars. So so basically, just to show you how it works, there's the original. There's after one pass, and there's after a second pass. So it did seem to do, I hadn't noticed this before, did seem to do a little something to the colors. So I don't know exactly what, I don't remember that happening when I did it, when I was processing this image originally, but I really generally think it does do a pretty good job of toning down the stars without, I've used other star reduction scripts, and I've done some manual stuff, but one of the other scripts I think that's in here, I'm not sure where it is, for star reduction, I felt like it muddied up the nebula. It would muddy up the image, the rest of the image that I wasn't wanting to change, and I haven't noticed that with this script. So I feel pretty good about how it works, particularly for these, wider field images. This was shot with a 200 millimeter Canon lens on my ASI 1600, so it's fairly wide frame of the sky. So at any rate, that's pretty much the stuff I had to talk to you about. So just kind of for a summary, the ones in green are the ones that I've used, and I've kind of just written up there. You can read it at your leisure, but I think I've said all these things, but it kind of tells you what I think of it. And Michael, you want to repeat what you said about the live stack in case somebody, that everybody was on when you were talking about it?
Thank you, John. That was great. And
no problem.
Good to go over these, and sort of, it was great that you talked about sort of what's happening behind the scenes. Yeah, so the EZ Live Stack is, if you've used Deep Sky Live Stack, I think it's the same idea. It monitors a folder and then sees any changes, and you can set it. Let's say you're taking a bunch of short exposures. You can tell it, wait till you get like 20 of those and then do a stack. So it's not falling behind too far. And it just runs, I think, basically BPP or something, or image integration, and stacks it, and you can play with the stretch a little bit. It'll also smart enough to kind of pick out RGB and then combine those to get a preview RGB image as you go. For if you're really doing EAA, I think sharp cap is the way to go. But if you're just running it overnight anyway, and you just want to come back every once in a while and see what the current stack would look like, it doesn't cost anything. I wouldn't run it on the machine you're using to acquire data with, but most of us, I think, have a machine outside and a machine inside anyway. So
those of us that have an insider now. So.
yeah, because it is definitely, stacking, so it is gonna crank up some CPU there. So, depending on what you're capturing your data with, I don't know that would be a great idea, but it seems to work, and that's all I did, just to play around with it.
That's neat.
So
that's good.
Well,
Vince, you'd asked for me to put this slide back up. Did I share it back? Am I sharing?
No.
Okay. Let me do it. All right, there we go.
You're good.
Did you have a question, or did you just want to?
No, I just wanted to match it up to the book there.
Gotcha. Oh, you're looking at page 282 of the PixInsight book.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
I can't ever remember the sequence, so I always have to pull the book out. I just have to and I've got a Word document of notes that I put together from stuff that Michael and David Keller sent out in a bunch of emails sometime a long time ago, and that's my that's my brain for remembering how to process. So,
Yeah, John, can you explain? Naveen's asking about the book.
oh, okay. Let me see. Where did I?
Just the title and
Yes. The let me see. Can you see?
assuming you
that?
recommend it, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's great. It's called Inside PixInsight. This is the second edition. The guy's name is Warren Keller. He's kind of a guru, one of the gurus on PixInsight. He has a website, and I subscribed to his website. I did it years ago, and he only charged like $4 a month for for a subscription, and he's gone up a good bit, but he grandfathered all of us in. So I figured for $4 it's worth it, just to, because he has lots of tutorial videos and such, as well as he does lots of stuff. So I mean he's great. Now somebody else mentioned, pull this one out. I don't know if everybody's seen this one. This is written by, isn't he one of the main developers of PixInsight, I believe? Rogelio Andreo. At any rate, that's a mastering PixInsight is fairly new.
And you can get that electronically also.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I'm like, was it Captain Kirk or was it Picard that liked printed books? That I'm much more of an old school person that likes a book. So, yeah, you can get an electronic copy of that, and if you buy a hard copy, you get the electronic copy too. So that's a nice thing. Any rate.
Good. Well, yeah, there are so many resources. When I started using PixInsight in 2005, yeah, I remember going to an imaging conference and asking people about it, and they looked at me like I was from Mars. So a lot better today. You can get,
if I hadn't found that live light vortex people, the guy over in Gibraltar, if I hadn't found him, I would have never figured it out. But
well, you did. I remember you came into a meeting and using Deep Sky Stacker, and I was like, well, you got better data than this. And you went away, and the next meeting you'd learned PixInsight and had a great looking image. So you
that was, I was really discouraged with Deep Sky Stack. I don't know which part of it. I was doing Deep Sky and then putting it in Photoshop, and between the two, I was not getting how to. A lot of you guys can do great things with that, but I never could. But then kind of PixInsight, I kind of took to it. So
good. All right. Well, any other comments or questions for John? Well, thank you again. I know you put a lot of time into that, and great information.
I learned stuff.
Yeah, well, that's the fun thing about doing these is you always pick something up. So
I have a question, John. Can I?
Yeah, Arjun.
All right. Well, thanks for that presentation. Super useful and really some deep insights in the stuff that I didn't read up on yet. So I was playing around with Decon as well, and I was wondering if you had any tips on the star masks, because to be honest, even in your images, you do see a bit of a blurry kind of halo around some of the stars, right?
Yes,
so yes. The mask is too big, or it's too small, or you need to smoothen it more. I'm also kind of playing around with it. I don't know what you found so far.
I have to tell you that as far as using that script, I'm still trying to figure that out too. The thing that I found was that bumping up the number of iterations of pixel math seemed to help, but I still, like when you were looking at that one, there's that one star right in the middle of the helmet that I haven't figured out how to get that last little ring off of it. So I'm still trying to
Photoshop.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's and I put that, I think I put that image out already. And I don't remember whether I used
I don't want to do Photoshop. It's just
well, no, you should be using Affinity actually, but sometimes it's easier just to put a little lipstick on it. But yeah, I'm sure there's a setting that would help that too.
Yeah, I haven't figured out what it is yet.
I can
you know,
comment.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you. I did not go and watch that video and figure out what it was actually, what that script was doing until I started getting ready for this presentation. And that's been, you know, Michael asked me a long time ago to get ready to do this. And, but at any rate, I figured out how to tweak the mask a little bit and how to tweak the process. So
I found a real simple approach to the deconvolution star mask. And now for me, that's the easiest part. The first thing is you've got to fix the gradients in the image. If you got gradients, you got a real problem with uniform background. But then I just open star mask, look at the defaults, and only check two boxes: binarize and what's the other one under there? You just check two boxes and make a star. And you might want to expand the stars a bit to grow it. If you don't grow it enough, you can use morphological transformation to grow it instead. But usually the threshold of 0.1 is pretty good, because the idea is to mask off the bright stars, not all the stars, because you're losing a lot of effect if you do that. So for me now, that's the easiest part of it. Oh yeah, just aggregate and binarize. And the noise threshold of 0.1 is almost always correct, provided you did gradient correction. So it's going to go up, 10% of the level, and anything above that. So, the faint stars are left alone, the bright stars on. Then it's just a matter of structure growth, of growing, how much do you want to grow it or not. But that usually works pretty darn well. And if you want to soften the edges of it, then just use convolution on that. Or if you want to make them bigger, you can grow it with morphological transformation, the mask itself. But that strategy is nice because it's really, really simple.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to crack the egg on this one. The deconvolution seems to have lots of mumbo jumbo tricks to do it. I haven't really used it much. I usually just do high pass and affinity at the end to get a similar effect, but it's good to see people working on making it easier to use for sure.
And I've, this guy, it's to the point now where I don't see a lot of updates to it. I'm hoping that he will, but maybe like once every couple or 3 months, I'll start into PixInsight and I'll get a message that there's new stuff, and it'll turn out to be him enhancing or fixing bugs or something. But
I did see he's backing off for a while. I think he's done what he's going to do for now. But yeah, hopefully people keep using it. Roland, do you have a question?
Yeah. So now that you've used this for a while, John, I guess the question is, do you still do it the old way and alongside the easy way, or is the easy way saving you time, or is it adding time by adding yet another path to try?
I will say, let's see, I was going to look at so typically the two that I use pretty much religiously now instead of others is the denoise and the star reduction. The other ones, the stretch, like I said, I'll it doesn't take but just a second to run that one. So I'll pop in there and see if I like what it does. And if I think it looks good, I'll take it. If not, then I'll go to the regular histogram or masked stretch and try those. So, and then with the HDR, I don't use it a whole lot because, like I said, I usually do the HDR multi-scale and then local histogram equalization kind of together, back to back, and then use the combination of those to blend back to the original image. So So really the two that I use the most are the noise reduction and the star reduction of the whole suite. So I may play with since I finally understand the deconvolution better, I may start trying to play with it a little bit more with some of my images just to see if I can get a good result quickly with that. But generally in the past, I've just used decon, the normal way. So
I've gotten all my pre-processing
answer
down to one button click, but I have no hope for getting my post-processing down to one click. But that's still the dream.
You must have a few
Yeah,
weeks of a backlog there on your post-processing.
Yeah, it's too much. Too much of a good thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, good.
Yep,
Good
cool.
comments.
Naveen, did you get your question answered? Which book is that? Did I?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, I think we're good. We got a few book selections. Those are good. As John said, Warren Keller, Adam Block have some pay sites and also the Light Vortex. There's tons of free info. So between all that, there's no excuse for not doing it. No, there's a lot of great stuff to help you out, and certainly ask on the forums. I know Michael's had some questions about things in PixInsight, and hopefully we can all help out and share this info we have. So, well, I don't have any more workshops planned for the near term, but if anyone has ideas or wants to give one, I'm always happy to set these up. They may not be in the afternoon or weekends during the summer, but we'll figure out something. Otherwise, I appreciate. Yeah, Roland.
The release of the Cyril add-on script guess. I think the lady who does it in France is finished with it. At least, it's kind of to a 1.0, and she's got the documentation finished as well. So maybe in a couple of weeks we could run through that one if it's of interest to anybody. This is a way to automate, especially if you're doing multiple nights and you want to do pre-processing with Cyril. It's a script that does that. So that's the one I've used now, where even though I'm running 3 scopes, running multiple objects every night, I've literally run one script to pre-process the whole shebang, which is nice.
Wow.
Yep. That's the idea. That's how the professional astronomers do it. So, all right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend. And thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much, John. I really
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.